So I've made a few guides on specific supports, but in this video I want to go over the best times to pick all of the supports. I grinded up to Eternity playing pretty much only support and filling other roles when I had to, so the basis behind this video of knowing when to pick what support is going to be built off the accumulation from my experiences getting to Eternity. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and start with Rocket, since I feel like he's the easiest to understand. The way I see Rocket is you pick him in 3 scenarios. The first, of course, being when you have the team-ups. Whenever you have Punisher and Bucky, or even just a Punisher, Rocket is actually a really good pick because he enables Punisher to do more damage over time with his team-up. And his ult even flows very well with Punisher's ult, to the point of allowing Punisher to kill through other support ults when you combine them. The second scenario will be long walkbacks. So think of convoy maps like Yggdrasil, Spider Islands, you get the idea. In particular, the first point of those maps, the defense will usually have a long walk back, and the rocket res is actually really nice for this, especially if someone accidentally screws up, because then they get a free do-over. If you really think about it, a respawn might take 10 seconds, then they have to spend another 10 seconds walking back, depending on who they're playing, of course, so you're essentially eliminating 20 seconds of downtime for that player. So this is really where Rocket Res Beacon can really shine, and you're getting the maximum amount of value from it. The third scenario is if you're running a triple support comp, Rocket could be a really nice addition as the third support. Typically when this is happening though, you go back to scenario 1 because you'll probably have a Punisher and or a Bucky to complement the comp. But if you don't, Rocket can still be decent here because his amplifier can give a huge damage boost to the team fight, and he doesn't have to be relied on to heal as much. This is also going to be good if you don't want that 2 and 6 player playing DPS anymore. Next up, we have Cloak and Dagger. She's going to be what I consider to be a main healer, meaning someone that can really carry the healing in a team fight. Cloak can be picked whenever. I think she's great in most situations, especially when those situations consist of a lot of needed AoE healing. That's what she really shines at. However, I wouldn't really recommend picking her against a mag unless you have a mag to protect you from his ult while you're ulting. I think the matchup is just so bad for her when it comes to that I wouldn't really recommend picking her in that case unless, say, they ban Luna and Invis, then you kind of have to pick her. Aside from that, yeah, she's still going to be really good, especially with her auto healing buff. But I think the next 2 supports I'm going to mention are just better than her most of the time. Now this brings me to Luna. Just like Cloak, she's going to be a main healer, and just like Cloak, she's also going to be picked in most cases. However, there's 2 times I really don't like picking her. The first is when they have a lot of dive. Yes, she does have a freeze up heal herself, and if you're in a triple healer comp, you're probably going to be fine for the most part. But once that freeze is used, and if you're not in a triple healer comp, the game's going to be really hard for you. The main reason is because you don't really have anything else to help you survive dive. Your passive isn't really going to be useful in this case, and neither is the rest of your kit. So in this case, it's best to switch off and pick a safer character like Cloak and Dagger or Inviswoman who can actually survive the dive much better. The second time I hate picking her is when there's a lot of height in the environment. Now this is probably just a me thing, but she has no way of getting up somewhere unless there's a path that can actually lead to it, and I just think, why would I sacrifice all this area I can potentially play as another healer that can actually get up there like Cloak or Invis? An example of this are points like Odin's Archive that have a lot more vertical play to them, but she is going to excel when it comes to team-ups like Namor and Jeff, and I think this is what really makes her shine. If Luna and Namor are up, most of the time you should be playing that comp, but she's also going to be good with other combos like characters that have one-shot ultimates. A few of these abilities that come to mind are Venom ult.
Luna, let's combo. I'm gonna call out damage boost. You ready?
Sure.
Right now, I'm going in.
I am ready to put on a show.
No.
Nice.
Ooh, you play up now. Play aggressive. Play with her Luna.
Namor ult or Strange Burst. There's a lot you can do with this character, which is why she's considered to be one of the best healers. So yes, besides the reasons I listed above for me, there is no reason why you shouldn't be able to play Luna just about every game. But just know she's going to excel the most in comps that are going to give her the team ups and ones that are also going to be able to protect her. Also, it's good to note that both Luna and Cloak are going to be the best healers when it comes to healing your flying or diving DPS and tanks. Luna has a snowflake that you can latch onto characters you otherwise wouldn't be able to heal because they're too far, and Cloak has heat-seeking autos, so just point and shoot and you're good. So make sure to pick either one of them if you have a lot of dive. If your teammate already has one of the 2, then you're good because they can carry the healing on those characters. Next up, we have Inviswoman. This is my favorite character, and for those of you that watch my videos, you know she's by far the character I have the most playtime on and probably make the most plays on as well. Just like Cloak and Luna, she's going to be the last main healer we talk about. I play this character just about every game, and I personally think she's the best all-around support in the game. She can literally be picked anytime and in any situation. She really doesn't have any flaws or any times I wouldn't pick her. I will say her ultimate is a little sketchy because it is a static ult, meaning that once it's casted, it's staying in that position for its duration. So it won't be as good of an ult as say Mantis's or Luna's would be when trying to use it to push your team forward. But she's not going to really have any counters. She can make insane plays, disrupt enemy plays, get to high ground when needed, heal herself, and even shield big ults to save her teammates.
What?
Good.
Oh, I blocked it!
Hawkeye down, yeah.
I mean, this character is just insane. I would recommend playing her every game if you're good with her. She also has some of the highest healing output, with her burst healing on her autos being some of the highest, and their AoE so you can heal everybody at once. Think of Luna left shift, but on crack, because you get it all the time and produce even more healing. Okay, I got a little bit ahead of myself. She does have one major flaw, and that's going to be the range on her auto attacks. See, her auto attacks are going to have a shorter range than most other supports, so she won't pair with a dive team comp as well, because it's going to be a lot harder to heal those players, and oftentimes you'll end up putting yourself out of position trying to do so. She is decent at healing flying characters because of the shield that you can spam onto them, but when it comes to healing dive, I would prefer picking Luna or Cloak in that situation, but other than that, pick this character every single game. She's amazing. Up next, we have Adam. Adam's in an interesting spot right now because he's actually very good in the current meta, specifically if you run the trio res comp, which consists of Adam, Mantis, and Star-Lord. Star-Lord is also considered to be one of the best DPSs in the current meta, so it's a win-win. However, where Adam struggles, in my opinion, is with his lack of healing, because he doesn't have consistent healing. In other words, he can't heal with his auto attacks, so it's best to run him in a 3 support comp. Now, I'm not saying you should never run him in a 2 support comp, but what I am saying is test the waters. If you want to run him, see if it's working at first. If it's not, then switch off. But I think he's by far going to be the most effective in a 3 support comp, so that's when I would pick him. And the reason for this is because he loves his team up with Mantis. So if you're running an Adam, you probably also want to run a Mantis. But if you just run Mantis and Adam, now your healing output is very minimal because now you have 2 off healers and no main healers on your team. You essentially have 2 characters that can't heal with their auto attacks and can only ability heal, so there's going to be some healing downtime. So you need to make up for that with a 3rd healer. On top of this, running that 3rd healer will also give you another big support ult, one that'll be more effective than Mantis's. But overall, Adam is in a great position right now, especially with Soul Bomb being as strong of an ability as it is, so he's definitely a viable pick. I just recommend picking him when you have 3 supports. Another character I recommend picking when you have 3 supports is Mantis. Just like Adam, she's going to be an off healer, but she also does a lot of single target damage and can give her teammates a damage boost. She could be ran in a 2 support comp, but again, you're going to be lacking some healing, so you might have to test the waters if you want to do that. She's also a decent pickup if you feel like your DPS isn't doing the damage they need and you need to give your team some extra damage without switching roles. Mantis is obviously going to be good with this because her single target damage is high and she stims her allies, providing them bonus damage. But overall, Mantis is going to be a bit more niche, and I'm really only picking her on a couple conditions. The first is when we have the Adam team up and we have 3 supports. In the second case, I'm going to pick Mantis when most or all of the other main healers are banned, although this doesn't really happen that often, it does happen. In this case, Mantis will most likely be the next best healer because she'll have that next big support ult everyone wants. And the final condition is if you feel like your team is lacking damage. This you can easily tell if none of the enemies are dying, then maybe we swap to Mantis to help them out. As a bonus, one team comp that I found that was super cracked with Mantis was Punisher, Rocket, and Mantis. Of course, with this, you'll need an additional healer if you feel like your comp isn't healing enough, but you're just perma-stimming your Punisher on infinite ammo, and he gets double stimmed on his ult by you and Rocket. It's absolutely disgusting. If you can also fit a Bucky in there, go for it. But those would be the main times I would pick Mantis. I also created a Mantis guide recently that I'll post in the description if you want to go ahead and check it out. Now we're down to our last 2 supports. Do note that these are the 2 that I play the least, and I barely play them over the supports that I've covered in the video so far. Mostly because I don't really find their kits to be as fun as the characters that I main, but they're still going to be great supports. One of them is going to be Loki. Now, Loki is considered to be one of the best supports right now, with many players considering him to be the best overall pick. I think this is all subjective. It really just depends on who's playing the character and how effective you are with them, but he's going to excel into dive team comps. So if the enemy has a lot of dive, picking Loki can be really strong because he's super safe. He pretty much has 3 get out of jail free cards, one being teleportation to his clones, another being his invis, and the 3rd being his lamps. On top of this, he can copy any ult he sees, and oftentimes he'll use this to switch into another support like Luna, so you'll essentially get 2 Luna ults on your team. Loki can be picked in literally any situation. The only time I don't really like having a Loki is when the enemy team has, say, a Bucky, because he just gets infinite free resets off of the Loki clones, and this can really throw the fight for your team. Some do consider him to be a main healer. He does have healing autos. I personally don't. I just don't feel like Loki heals enough by himself, usually for me to consider him to be a main healer, but he's still going to be really good in a 2 healer comp. You don't need 3 healers unless the other healer is an off healer, like Mantis or Adam. You def want to pair Loki with a main healer like Luna, Cloak, or Invis, especially because he could just copy those ults whenever he wants. So overall, you can pick Loki in any situation, any map or game type, he's going to be good, with him excelling into dive comps, and when you have a main healer you can copy. Lastly, we have Jeff. I don't have much to say about Jeff. I think this character is a pretty bad backline healer, and I don't think you should ever pick him if that's what you're planning to do with him. I also don't think you should pick him if you're running a 2 healer comp and if you don't have a Luna. Okay, so when should you pick him? Well, let me explain. In my mind, Jeff's best trait is being a DPS assassin. He pretty much wins the 1v1 versus anyone in the game, and he's really good on maps that you can throw enemies off of. He's a lot better with the Luna team up as he gets a slow add on to his damaging autos, and he also gets a bit more damage with them too. So if you're gonna pick him, you need to play like a DPS assassin and play in the enemy backline. Your job is to annoy and kill the healers and really any other squishy sitting back there. The reason why this needs a 3 healer comp is because if Jeff is in their backline, then you only have 1 healer healing the team, and that just won't do. So Jeff is really only going to be good in a 3 healer comp if you're considering Jeff to also be a healer. But that's really the only time you should be picking Jeff. Just about all other healers play your backline much better than he does. So there really is no point in picking him unless you're playing flanking Jeff. Now, when it comes to Cloak, Luna, Invis, and Loki, I know it might sound confusing because I said you can pick these characters just about all the time, except for in certain cases. But to expand upon this, even though any of these characters are viable, some maps might suit specific ones better. For example, we said how Cloak and Invis have a lot of AoE healing and can abuse that. So these characters might fare better than Luna on maps like Clintar that force your team to group up more and stay closer to you. Why would I play Luna who can only single target heal outside of her left shift when I could play Cloak and Invis who can AoE heal all the time? See, if you really want to get the most out of each character, it's the little things that you have to take into account. You can always find use cases for any of these characters outside of what I said in the video, but these are going to be their general case for me. A lot of this is just built off of what I've experienced playing the characters and observing others play them in my games. In particular, if you're going with the traditional 2-2-2 comp, that means 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 supports, I would always prefer one of those supports to be either Luna, Cloak, or Invis, and the other slot can be filled with whatever you think is needed for that given game. Remember, you can always switch off if something isn't working out. You're not locked into one support the whole game. But these are going to be my tips for knowing the best times to pick each support. Good luck in your games, and happy climbing.